Welcome to the Coffee with Karen podcast, a weekly chat show discussing everything from holistic health to current affairs from a mental, physical and spiritual perspective. Get your weekly cup of positivity with a sprinkling of woo-woo.
And we are live, so welcome to a Coffee with Karen, a cup of positivity with just a sprinkling of woo-woo. So each week my guests tend to be around the holistic health arena in some aspect or other, whether it's coming from a mental, a physical or a spiritual perspective, or quite often times a combination of all three, actually. So your host, my name's Karen Roberts. I am a holistic transformation coach. I focus on helping people within the health and wellness industry really hit that 6 figures and beyond marker by using social media without being a salesy weirdo. So today's guest, I've actually had him on before, very early on. So I'm going to ask you then, Phil, to share with the listeners a little bit about who you are, what you do, and share a bit of your story, please.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me back on, Karen. Yeah, okay, so who am I? Well, my name's Phil Escott. I am a health coach and drummer and author and all kinds of stuff. But I think I came to this mostly because I was very sick in 2010 or so, after thinking that I knew everything about diet and health and used to write books on plant-based diets and that kind of thing. And then I was crippled with rheumatoid arthritis in 2010 at 48 years old. And I thought, wow, I obviously don't know as much as I thought I knew. And so I went on this long journey of, going even more plant-based and going vegan and whatever, and ended up very emaciated and didn't really fix the joints, and ended up with kidney stones as well for my troubles. I lost all my muscle. And then, about 3-year transition phase of keto diets and many things, all the levels of healing, really, all the light and the emotions and spiritual stuff and all kinds. And then in 2015 went fully carnivore and haven't eaten a plant for 7 years now. And everything seems to have sorted itself out. And if anybody, if anything anybody said about nutrition, whether mainstream or vegan or vegetarian, were true, I would definitely be dead by now, since I've eaten absolutely nothing that's supposed to be healthy, and the only thing that is supposed to be the most dangerous, which is fatty red meat, nothing else at all. And I don't have scurvy, and nothing else happens, and I see this happening over and over. So now, I wrote a book on it, Arthritis, the Best Thing That Ever Happened to Me, because it brought me to all this knowledge, really. And I do consults and help people out with their autoimmune conditions. We see beautiful reversals all the time, as we do on my social media, carnivore groups and whatever. I have 100% Carnivore and Beyond is the main group. I think there's about 16,000 in there now. And strangely, nobody there's got scurvy either. And we have also my partnership with the Human Unleashed guys and the Red Pill guys. They're the same guys, Graham Norbury, Ben Hunt, Dr. Jeremy Ayres, John Gusty, and we've written the Red Pill Revolution book, and we've got the Red Pill Food Revolution book coming out soon about how we've been fooled over the centuries about our diet and, well, everything really. The first one was a more general one. This one's coming out about diet, and it's pretty hard hitting. I think it'll upset a few people, but enlighten a few others, I think. So that's basically what I do.
Yeah, I mean, how do you feel? I mean, since we last actually spoke on this, do you think the the movement that is the vegan movement has got bigger, or do you think people are slightly more aware now?
I think it's a combination. I think some more people are falling into it, but they don't last long. There are a hell of a lot more ex-vegans than there are vegans. And I think they get caught up in the compassion thing, which is lovely. It comes from a good heart, but they're not really scratching the surface of what's going on. They don't understand the billions of wild animals that are killed for crops. and then they think the crops are all fed to the animals, and they're not. They only get fed the stuff when we've taken off the edible stuff and the seed oils. And so all the animals in factory farms, it is disgraceful. The carnivores are just as much against it as the vegans. And if we didn't have those horrible monocrops destroying all the environment, killing billions of animals and wrecking the soil, then the animals would be back on the land and they would be regenerating the soil. And, 24% or so of the land's mass is suitable for that kind of farming. And only about 3-4% is suitable for crops. And we pretty much depleted that anyway. So if we don't wake up to this and get rid of this vegan agenda, then I think nobody's going to be eating any food, whether it's the poisonous crops or whether it's the sort of Beyond Burgers and stuff that we're told to think is healthy when they're really just a chemical shitstorm, aren't they? So but you can see the vegans that you look at maybe you see some great series like Gattis's one, Sverige, SV3 RIGE on YouTube, and it's called Vegans, the Epitome of Malnourishment. And I think he's on number 8 now. But you can see how the terrible decline in health happens with all the vegan influencers and, the child abuse that happens from feeding them this. It might sound like I'm straight away going hard in on vegans, and I'm not, because I'm an ex-vegan. Most carnivores are ex-vegans because we've been experimenting with diet for a long time. But where I do go hard on it now because, we've got this war on meat. The elites are there. They're not only faking human pandemics, they're faking animal pandemics with these unreliable tests, swabby tests. I'm trying to use the language well. I'm not sure you're pulling this up. I don't want you pulled down off YouTube. We've had a few things pulled down, for questioning that. But, they want to kill off the livestock when they pretend they're ill. They say that, farting cows causes the climate change hoax. And, it's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous stuff. And our ancestral diet is fatty red meat. You can see it from the bone isotope records that for millennia we really lived just on fatty red meat. We would only have got berries and nuts and whatever in a certain season. And up north, we would never have had that access to that at all. So, there are many cultures that have been carnivorous or largely carnivorous, and they're actually some of the healthiest and long-lived cultures. The blue zones thing is a big myth. And so, if we realize what our ancestral diet is, I'm not dogmatic. I think anybody should eat what they choose to eat, but it should be, we should know what's going on. We should know how many toxins are in plants, and that none of the plants, the fruits and the veg we buy even existed 200 years ago. There's 136 known carcinogens in Brussels sprouts alone, and that's organic Brussels sprouts. That's not the pesticides. And the least toxic veg has 60 in, and they have other toxins as well. Now, meat has 0 toxins. Great resource for this. I've been on his podcast. He's been on mine, Dr. Anthony Chafee, carnivore doc. He's been carnivore pretty much on and off for 20 years. And I mean, you look at him, he's a complete Adonis. And he's, if you want to know how to eat, let's just Google Anthony with his top off. But his plant toxin stuff is fascinating. If anybody can find the Anthony Chafee plant toxins video, you see that, you'll be absolutely shocked. These things are incredibly toxic, and never mind the grains and seed oils that the WHO pushes heart healthy. So, that's a bit of a rant, but that's what's brought me to it. My own health did, but since then, you actually look into proper science about our nutrition, not the useless epidemiological stuff that was done on people that eat everything all at once and smoke and drink and whatever. It's all nonsense. And so, if you look at actual studies, anthropology, the circadian biology really of what we ate in which season, and it becomes clear that everything's nonsense, and we are facultative carnivores. We have a gut more like a hyena, very, very low pH, 1 point something, very, very acidic, even more acidic than a lion. We're kind of more adapted to eating carrion like a hyena or a vulture or whatever. And so, people say eat like a gorilla, and I say try it, 50 pounds of dried vegetation and their own poo to get their B12, you give it a go. But
do you want to look like a gorilla? What's look like a gorilla?
Exactly. They're supposed to have big guts because they're hindgut fermenters, but we're not, and we're supposed to have a nice flat stomach. And I'm the only 60-year-old I know with a flat stomach. So, you know, and I eat fatty meat all the time. So, you know.
Well, there you go. And I mean, well, you can see just through pictures of people, I don't know, back in the 70s, say on the beach, you spot an obese person, whereas these days, yeah, try and spot somebody that does have a flat stomach. I mean, I think people must realise that there's something that we're doing to us. But as you just said earlier about the fact that people are eating everything together, so they're going by what they've been told. It's that part of the plate that's wrong. I've got to stop eating that. Whereas they're not doing it properly and eliminating everything and trying one specific thing. It just it seems crazy. But what I found, the moment you mention anything like this, the vegans can get very irate, very angry, and quite condescending in their talk to you, like talking down to you, because they know best.
Well, they've seen a few propaganda films, and they're very persuasive, and they get really sort of over moral about it. And I've had death threats on my YouTube channel. I found a screenshot of one the other day, and just, I'm going to come and rip you limb from limb and all that. And it's just really a language I can't even use on here. But I put it on my Facebook page, you know, and it's just astonishing what happens. But sometimes I've been attacked by them when their bodies are in this hunting mode, and they get very aggressive because your body's telling you to hunt. They need these animal fats. You see them when they get these animal fats back in the brain, they just calm down. And you see them on the Carnivore group and the vegan recovery groups on Facebook, and they're just, how was I so aggressive? How was that? How could I possibly be like that? I don't know. I don't recognize myself anymore. Now my brain's working again. And very often, you know, they even the ones that attack me will come along like 2 years later, and something's gone wrong. Their thyroid's gone wrong. You know, their arse is blown up, or, you know, their joints don't work, or their teeth are falling out, or a lot of things that happen with veganism in time after the honeymoon period, where it appears like you feel great. And they come along and they say, can you help out? And I do, and we become friends, and that's great. That's why I never rise to those threats or attacks, because I know what they're going through. I know that they're not really in their right mind. And, you know, at that point, when you say that, everybody comes along with, oh, but I know this vegan who's healed from that, and I've healed this and I've healed that. But actually you do see it, because it's basically a fast. You're not getting any nutrients in, and you're just getting anti-nutrients as well, all the toxins, particularly if you do the juicing and all of that sort of thing. Been there, had the kidney stones. But if you go, if you heal on that path, very often these issues come back again later. And along with all the other things, when the plant toxins build up, the deuterium levels, the nutritional deficiencies, and we see this again and again in people who follow things like Gerson therapy, you know, which used to be reasonably effective when they used to use liver in the smoothies and whatever, but now it's fully plant-based. People are getting in terrible trouble with it, and it's what the elites want. They want us to lose touch with our ancestral heritage and to be strong and intelligent and impervious to brainwashing and bullshit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's odd that the whole calorie thing it is completely reversed. So you said something about these are anti-nutrients. You know, people getting into like, why would you ever want to juice celery if it takes more energy? It's so backwards, because people want to lose weight or something, so they think that sounds great. So actually, by eating that food, my body will spend more energy in digesting it. Like, that's a good thing. Whereas, you know, fat has over double the caloric value to a protein and a carbohydrate, which must be bad. It's totally flipped. Surely that's a good thing. It's got more energy. It's more efficient. Surely
exactly.
their whole argument is just completely backwards. Also, I always hated celery growing up as a kid. My sister used to dip it in herbal salt, and I used to think, why are you eating that? Disgusting.
Oh, it's horrible stuff. I mean, I got the most trouble I got into was with spinach, because it's full of oxalates, which are little on a microscopic level, little shards that get in everywhere, prostate, thyroid, into the reproductive cells, reproductive system. It gets into your eyes, joints, everything. And then when you dump it, when you go keto and you have this oxalate dumping, you can very often have all sorts of crazy symptoms. And people blame it on the meat, but it's not. It's just the body letting go finally. As somebody once said, the best detoxing liquid is animal fats, and so it gets it out the body. And people who go on these elimination diets and go back to all that juicing and think that they're eliminating it, they're actually filling themselves full of horrific toxins. So yeah, the calorie thing is interesting, because I used to believe it. And I used to, in the late 90s, I ran a gym, and I really knew how to train, abbreviated, and got really big. I got pretty muscly. And I was never obese, still had a flat stomach, but I never got really lean. I never saw my abs. No matter how much I trained, no matter how much I rode mountain bikes around, I used to write for the mountain bike mags and whatever. Never got really lean. And then it got really fat over the next 10 years. And I was a proper fat bastard by the time I got really sick. And then suddenly, I was there lying on the sofa doing nothing, having done my calorie controlled diets previously. And I was so ill because my joints were so bad I couldn't move. And I got my first set of abs, eating 4,000 calories or whatever of animal fat and protein a day. And I thought, right, the whole calorie in, calorie out thing is total nonsense. You could, the beautiful weight loss. And let's distinguish weight loss, because people go to those criminal organizations like Slimming World and Weight Watchers and whatever, that are just set up for repeat business, and they feed them all these toxins, and the good stuff is called sins, and so they're supposed to avoid all the fats and whatever, and they do lose weight, but it's through willpower and calorie restriction. And each time they lose bone density, they lose muscle mass, and then that brings down the metabolism. And so the next time they put on more weight, and then they go back, I didn't do it enough. And it goes round and round and round. But you see these people never, ever hungry on a carnivore diet or even a keto diet, but keto diets can still include a load of crap. But, really, really losing weight, losing fat, not bone density, not muscle on these carnivore diets. And they're never hungry. You can eat as much as you want until your body tells you to stop. And this is something that people really need to understand, but it's very unlikely they will, because that calorie thing's been drilled into it. So you even get it in restaurants now, don't you? This has got so-and-so calories.
My own daughter told me the other day, because we don't have a TV, thank goodness, so I don't hear about them. I get my info either from Facebook or my daughter, who watches TikTok videos all day, I think. But yeah, she announced that no. And then I spoke to somebody yesterday about it, saying, my daughter's told me this. And they said, yes, but only if the restaurant has staff of 250 or more. How does that work?
I don't know. But I mean, there's some local, I don't know what they're called, I've forgotten, but one of those chains near us. And I've looked at the menu on the door. We haven't been in there, but it's got all the calories on. I'll be amazed if they employ 250 people. So.
Maybe they're just getting in on it. But not all calories are created equal, is it? It's just absolute madness. I'd rather have the breakdown, or just keep. It's so funny that all the healthy stuff has been vilified for so long. I mean, even down to the greasy calves, where they used to use probably lard. And, that's so unhealthy now, apparently. Whereas all they want to use is this rancid vegetable oil, which is possibly the most damaging thing that we've probably ever released. And yet, red meat, they've still got this idea that is, I'm being healthy. I'm not eating, I never eat red meat. You think, yeah, and then you're lining up for a vitamin B12 injection. How does that work?
Yeah. Well, so another carnivore friend of mine, she said once, isn't it funny that everything that's supposed to be caused by meat and fat disappears when you only eat meat and fat, nothing else? And it happens. I mean, how we've vilified animal fats is insane, because suddenly they brought in this stuff. I mean, vegetable oils is a real good subject to go into, because it is probably the most harmful thing that has ever been given to humans and told and said to be food. It was developed as a machine lubricant and soap making additive. Crisco, you know, back in the developed into Crisco when they decided they were going to give it to human beings and then pretend it was heart healthy. This stuff is absolutely toxic. It's all full of, also, as you say, you know, all the trans fats and linoleic acid and whatever. But there is actually a worse thing about seed oils that most people have no idea about, and why it's so carcinogenic. There is something called deuterium, and it's an extra isotope on the hydrogen molecule making for heavy water. A quick explanation: there's sort of 155 parts per million in water, in generally most of the water on the planet. If you find these long-lived people, like they said in the blue zones, they're very often in an area of very low deuterium water, like even 80, 90 parts per million. If they get in the glacial water, this would be the Hazda, Pakistan, you know. No, the Hazda is Tanzania. The Hazda, it's the Hunza. There we go. The Hunza in Pakistan, you know, very long-lived. They probably got some beautiful water up there. It's not to do with a vegan diet. None of them have a vegan diet anyway. They all eat meat. All these long-lived people. So deuterium is in the reproductive parts of plants. So you're eating it with grains. You're eating it with fruit, all that kind of thing. Fruit doesn't have the same toxins as veg does, because the plant wants us to eat it. We don't need it. And we don't need vitamin C when we don't eat carbohydrates, which is why the Inuit never get scurvy, and they don't eat any carbohydrates or vitamin C. So when this deuterium comes to us via the plants, via the carbohydrates, which it's full of, it blows up the nanomotors in the cells, in the mitochondria, and it causes all sorts of bad replication. So, you know, you'll get cancer, you'll get autoimmunity, that kind of thing. Lowering people's deuterium levels is very, very useful for reversing cancer. They're doing it at the Center for Deuterium Depletion, and it's probably why these carnivore diets work, because the fats are very low in deuterium, and they cause the body to produce its own deuterium depleted water within the cell. So that's why the fats, the very high fat carnivore diets, are so healing. One of the reasons. So we've interviewed Gabor Somlai, who is the leading researcher into deuterium, and also Laszlo Boros, right up there as well. And we've got interviews with them, and it's fascinating when you hear the real science of it. It's very kind of mind-boggling, but the simple thing is, it's bad water that comes in via carbs, gets into your system and causes havoc. Now, if you get it in via carbs, and nature gives us the deuterium, the high deuterium, when there's the sunlight to deplete it, it gives us it for a short time of year. It's nature knows best. So it'll give us the fruit, and the fruit gives us extra vitamin C too, because it's also got sugars in it. But if you don't eat fruit, you don't need the vitamin C. There is enough in meat to keep us going easily. But when it comes in via seed oils, you can't get rid of it. It's stuck there. And this is why they're so carcinogenic. You know, you get things like the women, you know, there's a big epidemic quite often of cancer in Asian countries, where the women are cooking in this stuff. They don't smoke, they don't do anything else that's horrific, but they're breathing in these seed oils all the time, and they're getting cancer, lung cancer. And it's really, really damaging stuff. So if you're eating anything with seed oils, just pack it in. That whatever you eat, you know, seed oils are worse things, and you're filling yourself up with deuterium. And probably you'd have to do something like an 11-day dry fast, no water, no food, to start getting into the kind of autophagy and apoptosis that's going to blow up the cells that are containing that deuterium. So, you know, on all levels, these things are absolutely horrific, and that deuterium angle is really something that most people haven't even considered. But when you feed animals a crappy diet, like we feed chickens and pigs, their fat is also quite high in deuterium. It's also high in linoleic acid. It's also high, you know, omega-6s. And so this is not healthy if you're getting regular pork and chicken. When people come to me, you know, carnivores, and they're very sick, and they say, I've been on the carnivore diet, I haven't had much improvement. And I go, right, are you eating dairy? Are you eating chicken? Are you eating pork? Are you eating eggs? You know, And at the start, these things are not good. It's fatty ruminant animal, beef and lamb, grass-fed, whatever. This is the stuff that really heals. And people don't believe it because they don't get that close. It's not about eating meat that heals. It's about eating no plants and no bad animals. Anthony Chaffee said a good one the other day that, and this is my experience for myself and for the people I consult with, that 95% of the benefits come when you drop the last 5% of the plants. And how many people ever get that close? Only the pure carnivores I know, and I see the healing all across the social media that I have and whatever. So very few people do that. A vegetarian will say, oh, I need a bit of protein. They'll grab a bit of chicken and a bit of fish, and they feel even worse. And they go, oh, well, that was evil. And they're eating it alongside all their pulses and grains and toxic veg. And so it's never going to happen. So the elites are pretty safe in their bullshit that they've given us, because unless you actually experience going fully carnivore with like beef and lamb only, salt and water, nothing else, you try it for 30 to 90 days, and nobody who's ever done that comes back and says it doesn't work.
Wow. Now that's pretty fascinating. I hadn't heard about that. I mean, when you say you can't, if it comes from carbs, it stays there. What do you mean? You can't eliminate it through normal methods?
This is where you got to listen to Gabor and Laszlo and the real beasts about this, or maybe even Graham Norbury can explain that in more detail. Part of our Human Unleashed guys. I'm just a sort of practical guy. The science I find very difficult to stick into my drummer's brain, but they're basically are natural ways of getting rid of it. The body will deplete deuterium. It will be blocked. the depletion of it will be blocked by anything that stresses us out, whether it's EMFs or artificial light at night, not getting that healing when you're asleep, that kind of thing. But it is stuck in there very much more tenaciously when you take it in via the seed oils, and they are sort of genocidal stuff. So through the carbs, you can get it lowered. You can do, I think, kind of saliva tests to find your deuterium levels. You can also buy deuterium depleted water. It's very expensive, and you wouldn't need it unless you've sort of got an advanced case of pancreatic cancer, in which case, cover all bases. And then you can get it in very low dilutions, like, 5 parts per million, 10 parts per million. But it isn't always best to do that. It's best to go down gradually, step down the process if you're doing a process of deuterium depletion via deuterium depleted water. So you would be mixing it with sort of some spring water or something and getting your own concentration, or buying it at 130, 120, 105 parts per million. It doesn't sound like much of a difference, but it is enough to deplete the levels in the cells. And here I am blathering on about deuterium, spending a long time on it. And Graham's probably going to watch this and go, oh, for God's sake, you're not
No, that's definitely one thing. I mean, I knew how bad seed oils were, but no, I didn't know about it from that aspect. So
well, you should get Graham on for a full explanation of it, because he's very, very good at putting the science into totally understandable language. He's brilliant at that. We call him the great demystifier, and he's great at explaining that. Whereas, if you listen to Gabor or Laszlo straight off, you might go a bit cross-eyed with the science.
I mean, I suppose that the trouble is, and I have to say, even I've struggled with that, because I know we sort of briefly spoke the other day about, I'd probably limited. I probably only eat cauliflower. That's probably it. I've totally have been off greens, anything green, for quite some time now. But
I'll just put one sec on that one before we go on. Sorry to interrupt, but our ancestors and in indigenous tribes, they do not eat stalks and leaves. They eat tubers, they eat some fruit. They don't eat stalks and leaves. They know how poisonous they are.
It's just it just goes back to, I think, the really ingrained. So even with my knowledge of the keto and fasting, I hadn't gone too far into the carnivore, but I was aware. I mean, my professor was Tim Noakes, so I was very aware of the phenomenal results that they've been getting with carnivore relating to autoimmune diseases. And I suppose then you think, well, I haven't got an autoimmune, there's nothing wrong with me, so it's okay. Because I suppose it's the boredom. Do you think it's the boredom factor? All these chef programs and everybody trying to, you know, mix everything up and make it all look pretty and go out for a meal. And it's all about the variety, isn't it? It just seems like everything we're being told, everything that is being pushed is completely the opposite but of how we should be eating. But to get somebody to just eat beef and lamb, they're like, oh, I couldn't do that. I'd be bored.
Well, you know, it kind of depends how ill you've got, really, doesn't it? You know, there's a motivation when you get very ill, and you see people coming to it and having this beautiful healing. Now, I did a video on my YouTube channel. Is eating meat boring? Only meat boring? Well, yeah, kind of to start with, but as I point out, nothing tastes as good as remission feels. And after a while, your tastes become more subtle, and you don't crave all of that other stuff. The cravings just go down, and
there you go. It's the cravings, isn't it? It's
the
cravings because it's the rubbish. It's the sugar.
Yeah. I mean, you are not hungry. We're hungry all the time when we're running on carbs. With, you know, newspaper on the fire, burned and it's gone, burned and it's gone. Fats is like a log and it burns for a long time. So you're not so bothered with those cravings. And when you're hungry, meat tastes fantastic. You know, it's the best food. You get some really fatty meat with some salt on it, and it's just delicious. But then you've had enough, and you've had enough. The body says you could still eat an enormous amount of Mars bars or Haagen-Dazs. You know, there's a different trigger for that. There's the cravings. But there comes a point where you've had enough steak, you can't eat anymore. You've had enough lamb chops, you've had enough roast beef, you know, whatever it is, and you can't eat anymore. And then you just stop, and then you get hungry again. But the hunger is never so strong as it is when you're on carbohydrates. You don't get those hunger cravings. Like if I'm out, I can't find any good food, and I sort of think, oh, I'm a bit hungry. You just go, it doesn't really matter. I'll eat tomorrow. You know, there's no drop in the energy levels. There's nothing like that. You don't need to go and grab a sandwich because you're out. You know, it just doesn't happen. So
I remember the last time I ate a sandwich.
I think 2010. I think 12 years since I ate bread anyway, but of any sort. But that was I twigged on early on that was toxic, but I didn't quite figure out the green veg for another few years.
My own mother, and if she's listening, sorry, Mum, but finally came to me, literally, I don't know, it's a couple of months ago, and actually said, oh, yeah, I think maybe it is the actual veg. And bless her, she thought she was doing the right thing. You know, Mum very into growing your own, so it's very into organic and sort of anti the pesticides and things. But really, you know, with Christmas dinner, the parsnips look all, you know, deformed, and but they tasted better than shop bought produce, right? So, you know, it's maybe a slight improvement on it. But there's always been on that, oh, no, you've got to have fruit and veg, got to have fruit and veg. Had a gallbladder out, and now has finally admitted that, yeah, actually, my issues could be down to, you're right, it's down to the veg. Whoa,
well, the gallbladder thing is, you know, they're butchers. They take them out at no provocation at all. In fact, they know how to dissolve the stones. They have a drug called ursodiol. And I am not a pusher of drugs. I think, you know, they are dreadful things 99 times out of 100 or more. But every now and again, short term, that certain ones of them do have some uses. Now, ursodiol will break down the stones in the gallbladder. And they know that. But they don't give it to people because then they know that when they go back to just eating their normal diet, they get gallstones again. So they go, oh, well, you've got gallstones. We won't bother with that. We'll just cut it out because they'll just come back again. But if you break them down with ursodiol and then you go onto a really high-fat, low-carb diet, you cannot produce gallstones. It doesn't happen because the bile just doesn't get ejected because you're on a low-fat diet. So you don't need to use the bile. So it gets stuck there. It sits there, and then it gets more and more concentrated until it calcifies. And then when you eat fat, of course, it tries to eject it, and then you get a horrible gallbladder attack. So you go, oh, it's the fats. I'm never eating fat.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it never was. The fats obviously will hurt in the same way as picking up a dumbbell or a barbell when you've got a broken arm. It's not a good idea. But if you do it without a broken arm, it's going to build muscle. So, and it's a good thing to do. But the gallbladder thing is a huge con, and most of the people that had them removed never ever needed to have them removed. And there are ways around it, and you never need to form gallstones again if you eat enough fat, because then the gallbladder is constantly emptying, and it's doing what it's supposed to do, because it's designed to be fitted into a human being as a spare part, because we eat fatty meat, and that's what we've done for millennia, and then it behaves perfectly. Same with the appendix. People say, oh, when you're on carnivore, you'll never have a poo. You'll be constipated the whole time. I've never had such perfect elimination. I was on Sean Baker's podcast, and we were chatting about, how you could have your turds could be on the front of the Bristol stool chart glamour calendar. They're perfect now. Whereas when I was veggie, they were just horrendous. But
the problem is the transition, and this is it. People want this instant gratification, and because they are going to go through transition, and they go, "Oh no, I can't do that because that makes me that," and it's not. You've got to go through the healing process first. But I think that's the issue. There's that distrust, so they're not prepared to actually go through that healing process to actually get to the other end and have it on glamour magazines, right?
Yes, exactly. Well, you see, it's all a matter of just a bit more on that bit. They say that meat sits in the colon and festers and stuff. It does not at all. It's the plants that end up fermenting in there, which is why you fart all the time. You don't fart on carnivore. And then that will also, that can also, with all the fiber in there, it can block up the appendix as well. And then people get their appendix having, infections in there and having to take it out. It's all down to the plants. And we've blamed the wrong thing. So people say, don't blame the burger for the sins of the bun. It's all the plants that have caused it. But yeah, on the healing thing, yeah, of course, you're going to get a transition phase. There are certain things that happen at the beginning of carnivore. You can think you're bunged up. People say, oh, I'm constipated, but you actually just pass far less because you're really digesting everything. Whereas with plants, you're eating this indigestible cellulose that's ripping the guts to bits, and you're pooing all the time. But actually then when it fails, you get constipated. And there's a study out there where they split the people into 3 groups. People who had idiopathic constipation, which means they don't know why, like most things with doctors, and so they're constipated already. And they took the three groups. Well, they split the group into 3. One section they just said eat your regular diet. The other ones they upped the fiber, and the other ones they took the fiber out. And the ones who did the same thing, obviously they were the same. The ones they upped the fiber, they got worse. The ones where they took all the fiber out, they probably thought they were going to kill these people. All of them recovered. It wasn't just some, it was all of them. And it's on PubMed in the World Journal of Gastroenterology or something. And you can see the conclusion, and they say, we're going to have to seriously reconsider the role of fiber in the diet. But of course, it's a small study and no one's heard about it, and nobody puts it. No, it never gets on the news or anything, does it? They're going, oh, this has got lots of fiber in, and that's got, and it causes all the problems it's said to cure. And
so the businesses would be shut down, wouldn't they, overnight if that happened?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And when you're in that healing phase, when you're in the transition phase, you can appear to get bunged up, because some people say, oh, I haven't had a poo for a couple of days. And I say, well, are you bloated? Are you uncomfortable? Is it like when you got constipated on carbs? And they go, no, I'm just worried that it hasn't come yet. And that happens sometimes. And then it usually balances itself out. Some people get the runs all the time when they go carnivore, because that's for the first month or so, maybe 3 months. If they're very ill, they'll get it quite a bit and it'll tail off, because the whole microbiome is readjusting, and it's fighting back on you. It wants those. You've got those bacteria that help you to digest the crap, and they want feeding with the crap, and so they'll tell you so. And then when they die off, you get all sorts of funny things happening with your bottom, but it balances out and it's okay. And other things, like people usually get, there's this thing called the keto flu, And that's usually down to electrolyte balance. And so if you have a bit of salt in water every now and again, that gets rid. It's when you can get palpitations, you can get cramps, you can get this, but it's just the kidneys are dumping more of the electrolytes than they used to on the carbs, and that balances out, and it's fine after a while.
Absolutely.
All these things are okay, but we've like you say, we've spent decades getting in these messes, and then people just want to heal within a week. It doesn't happen.
They go, it doesn't work. Or the trouble is, or what I see is, they want to make all these alternatives. So you can still have your bread. So here's keto bread, and you can use almond flour and coconut flour and this and that. And so we're going back. We're coming away again from the whole food, one ingredient thing at a time, right? To all these pizza bases and keto this and keto that. And again, it's just
pizza bases are crazy. I mean, you've got your almond flour pizza bases. That is oxalate central. That's kidney stones in a nutshell. And then you've got
almonds as a nut.
Almonds, very full of oxalates. Almonds, turmeric, spinach, dark chocolate. There's lots of oxalates also in all the grains and stuff like that. But tea, tea high in oxalates, lots of the leafy greens. And then they make the cauliflower bases, and I'm sorry, but cauliflower, it's a goitrogen. It'll on its own. If you have a bit of cauliflower now and again, it's not going to do much, but it is toxic to the thyroid. Right. It's not good for you. That broccoli as well. Those brassica sort of cruciferous things that we have made. They're man-made vegetables. They don't exist in the wild.
I only learned that the other day from the mustard plant. I was like, all this stuff, is not natural. Bananas, water, all these, it's like, what have we done? And people don't realise it. They do not, it's natural, it's grown. No, it didn't exist before. Man has played around with that. It's quite staggering.
It's an interesting example, the banana, because, you get these people on paleo diets and whatever, the ones who make all the fake breads and all that crap. And I used to get in terrible trouble on paleo groups for saying, look, just stop it. No more paleo breads. People are coming here, they're very sick. They don't need that stuff. Oh, well, we want to have the stuff we always had. No, just pack it in. Just if you want to put that stuff up, great, but say this is not for people who are sick. You might be able to get away with it, and it's maybe a bit better than a regular pizza. But if you really want a pizza and you can take dairy, then make a meatza. You can make the base out of ground beef. You just roll it really thin, and then you make a meatza and put your toppings on that, and that's great for keto.
Ooh,
not good. Dairy has its own problems, and it's not great for people at the beginning stages of their healing. And we never really ate it. And it's A1 dairy, and it's pasteurized generally, and it's crap. The really good dairy is still a problem for most people when they're healing. But you get these people putting these ridiculous things together, and they have to have their breads and cakes and all of that, and just get out of it. Get out of that mindset.
They're addicted. I think that's the key part. They are, and I get it. Look, I've been there. Yeah. And I lost a lot of weight on keto. Lockdown, I'll hit that self-sabotage button, and went back to all the rubbish. And it's an addiction. It's either like a lot of it for emotional issues as well. You're just going for that rubbish, that because you're wanting that, because of the taste, because of the sugar content, salt content, whatever it's doing to your taste buds, you're getting an instant hit. So it's making you feel better temporarily, but actually the long-term effect of it is, you don't want to be overweight. Who wants to be overweight? Tell me that you're happy being that. No, you're not, because you can't move around as easy. Nobody wants that.
It's funny, the banana thing amused me, because on the paleo groups, it was always very entertaining. People would pop up and go, oh, I've discovered banana pancakes. All you do is you mash up a banana and you mix it with eggs and you fry it up, and it's delicious, and you can eat this all the time. The kids love it. And everybody comes up underneath going, Really? Oh, wow. They're only taking a piss because somebody else has posted that 3 times that day. It's the first thing that they discover. No, not another banana pancake post. And it's like, look, you can have this sweet stuff and you can put banana with eggs and it's so healthy and it's paleo, because they just say no dairy, no grains. But
Right.
then again, let's look at the banana. I mean, it's bred for its shape, its color, its sweetness. It's something that we've done by crossbreeding these things. A wild banana is not particularly sweet. It's very small and it's absolutely full of seeds and it's not nice to eat at all. And so we've bred these things that are basically sort of Mars bars that grow on trees. And I'd say they're even worse than a Mars bar in many ways because they also have fiber in them. So they're eating this. They go, is a banana paleo? Well, what a ridiculous question. Because is it paleo, right? Paleo diet should be, what did you eat more than 10,000 years ago at this latitude at this time of year? And in England here now, we come out of winter, there would have been nothing apart from deer, rabbits, and fish. Nothing. In the autumn, we got a bit of seasonal berries and nuts and whatever. We didn't get a banana, so that's out, even if it existed in the wild. And we're probably eating it under artificial light, watching Netflix at midnight in the middle of the winter, right? And we're taking in fructose, we're taking in fiber, and we're taking in a load of deuterium. And so is this, here's my healthy banana? No.
It is, but it's just so amusing. It really has been total brainwashing. From at least when I was a kid. Well, obviously my mum's life as well, because she had been brought up with this, thought process that, having lots of fruit and veg and all this variety is the healthy way to go. And it's and like I say, going back to everything, people watch telly, they watch cookery shows and this, and they're all using XYZ, and it's not just beef and lamb, is it?
No, it's not. But people say, oh, we always ate this, we always ate that, or this race ate that, and we all ate all these vegetables. Well, like, number one, they didn't exist, and they couldn't get them seasonally. And if you actually look at the tribes that eat like this, the Hadza in Tanzania, they say they eat a load of fiber. They don't. They sometimes get the root veg, the tubers, when they haven't got a kill, the hunt's gone wrong or something, but they don't actually eat it a lot of the time. They kind of chew it up, spit out the fiber, because they know how bad it is. They eat some seasonal fruit, berries, nuts. They grab a load of honey when they can, but they can't go down to the supermarket and get a pot of honey. They have to get stung to death in a tree or halfway up a cliff face. So they don't have it very often, but they eat a bit more plants than the Maasai. But look at the Hadza. They don't have our chronic diseases, but they're missing the odd teeth and they got a rickety joint or something. But the Maasai,
well, they got sun for starters. They got the vitamin D.
Well, there is that. But the Maasai, blood, milk, and meat. They're 7 foot tall, bring lions down, with their bare hands, and the other tribes send people to them to get healed. And so there we go. Even on seasonal local plants, it's not so healthy to eat the plants. Weston Price saw this, the dentist that went around early last century, and he was looking for a vegetarian culture. He wanted to find one and how healthy they were. And he wrote his book, and there's still the Weston Price Foundation, but he went all around the world, all around these cultures. And the fewer plants they eat, the better their dental health was, the better their general health was. The Inuit don't have cavities. They don't have them in their skulls. If you dig up from the times when they ate their natural diet, the ones who are still on their natural diet, they have full jaws. All the teeth come in. They don't have crooked teeth. Which comes from the mother being depleted in nutrients because they're eating a load of plants while they're pregnant. The dental health is very important, and very telling as to the general health of generations past, the past couple of generations. And as Anthony Chaffee pointed out, I mean, he is massive. He's muscly, he's 6'3", and he says I would have been below average for the Mongolians when they had the longest empire that ever, like 900 odd years, that spread everywhere. And what did they eat? Pretty much horse meat, milk, blood. That's what they ate. They didn't eat these sort of barley and gruel and stuff like that. And they were like 6'4" on average. Now you look at Mongolia now; they're all on the plants. They're like little people.
Tiny. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about fish? What's your thoughts on fish then?
I think it's a good supplement. It's a good medicine. It's a side dish. It has, if somebody comes along with something neurological like MS or Parkinson's or something like that, it's very good to have a lot of fish. It is definitely a brain food. Definitely gets into the neurons, the sheaths, and it helps out with that. It has certain things that are very good for that sort of thing. But it was never our main food because it doesn't have enough fat. Even the fatty fish, they're great and very healthy. Any animal that's eaten what it's supposed to eat is good for us. If you're getting farmed salmon and that sort of thing, not good.
No.
They've eaten these crappy pellets. So, the old expression, you are what you eat. It's you are what you eat.
Oh, you can tell the difference.
It's got to be you are what you eats. That's the way to look at it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And so, if they've eaten what they're supposed to eat, great. I mean, oysters, fantastic, really good. In fact, this is something I mention a lot of the time, but this really brings it home to people what's happening with these mixed, balanced diets that everybody says we should have. This oyster study is fantastic. They got it, again, 3 groups of people, gave them all the same amount of oysters, gave the first group just oysters, trying to find out how much the zinc levels increased in the body, because oysters are full of zinc. And then the second group, oysters and black beans, third group, oysters and tortillas. Well, the group that ate just the oysters, the zinc levels shot up. The black bean group, not much increase. The tortilla group, no increase. So this is the point, that there are so many anti-nutrients. The worse you get with the plants, you're not absorbing even what you're getting from the good food that you eat. So people thinking, oh, I must eat a bit more meat. And then they're having, cereal for breakfast and pasta for dinner. And they're not getting anything out of the meat, really.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And that study just shows it. You eat them on their own, and the body is not fighting with a whole load of other crap in there, trying to get rid of it, and so it doesn't absorb the zinc from the oysters.
Yeah. Oh, they're just not absorbing. I mean, that's possibly the omega-6 to 3 ratio as well. So it's just the nutrients aren't just getting through the cell membrane wall, but it's again, it is this. So actually, it's quite interesting talking to you now. I think I've just had this realization. It is down to this bombardment of we have to eat a well-balanced diet, and that eating just one thing or 2 things is bad. But I mean, we know beef is the most bioavailable food for humans on planet Earth. So you're gonna get what are you getting from grass-fed organic beef, right? Pretty much the lot.
It is the lot, and a balanced diet is a steak in each hand.
I'll try that.
It's not, when they talk about balanced diets, and it means that you're balancing some stuff you're supposed to eat with some stuff you're not supposed to eat. And so what is a balanced diet? They got all this eat the rainbow and have that. I mean, when did we ever have that ancestrally? And people say, I'm sure people are saying now, oh, well, these people only lived to 30 or 40 or 50. Well, the average age was brought down by infant mortality and accidents. They lived a far more dangerous lifestyle. Most of these people didn't die from old age. But when they did die from old age, and they did have, I mean, I think the oldest Native American Indian eating mostly buffalo and whatever, I think recorded was 137. And, a lot of the tribes lived to 120. There was a thing where, who was it? It was Brian Sanders and whatever. And he was on his podcast, his Peak Human, and he's got this series where they went out and lived with the Hadza and the Maasai and whatever. And they found this great family where the mother was the old lady of the tribe, of the family. There were 6 generations in this picture, and the old lady's 120, her daughter's 90 and whatever. And they're eating just meat. And this old lady was not wheeled on full of meds. Oh, isn't it great that they got that? She's dancing with the tribe. She's pogoing around, And these people they live a long time, and they have a short period where they get sick over a few days and they die at the end of their lives. And that's how animals die, They don't have these long, protracted illnesses. We don't live longer now in the West. We just die more slowly.
Oh, well, that's the sad fact. People are suffering for longer. I mean, it's just their quality of life is sort of.
That's what it is. And so people look at the average age of these tribes. which actually isn't as low as they think. And also there's the aspect of digging up the bones, and they think these people were 40, 50 years old. They could well have been double those ages because they were so healthy and the bone density was so good. And so they could be completely misled in that respect too. But so we'll never know. But if you look at the modern day tribes, when they do get 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, they're healthy. They're climbing trees, you know, they're walking around, they're picking their berries or whatever. They probably don't, you know, probably the 120-year-olds don't hunt anymore. But this is the way that the society has been lost now, where we have no respect for old people. They're thrown into old folks' homes. Then they had respect for their elders. It's difficult to have respect for your elders now when they do have Alzheimer's, because their brains no longer run on carbohydrates, and they need ketones, they need the fats to run. And then obviously sometimes you can get these people back and their brains work again, you know, but they go into an old folks home and they're feeding them tea and biscuits and cake all day long.
Jelly. I'm going to hospital when my dad had a stroke, and you're just like, is this for real?
Yeah.
What are they feeding? It's just beyond, because there's just no connection to illness and nutrition. It's just, and why do you think it is that, you know, do you think that it is more the Americans? Is it because NHS, you know, everybody's got to come under the NHS, so you can't be a doctor out there by yourself prescribing XYZ, whereas America, you could go and choose your doctor. Oh, well, this one is promoting fasting to reverse type 2, or this one. Everybody, again, we all think the NHS is wonderful, but you're only given one solution, right?
Yeah, you know, the whole of the, you know, how deep can we go into that? The whole Rockefeller.
I think we'll have to have another one. We're nearly done already.
Yeah, the whole disease management repeat business model. It's just genocide. But you know, it again with these old people, it's difficult to have respect for old people and their knowledge when they've got Alzheimer's. They can't remember the knowledge. So you know, in these tribes, this is how it's passed down. These people, 120 years old, their minds are sharp. They're telling the stories of what they need to learn, of this ancestral wisdom, and passing it down through the generations. We lose it because people one of the reasons, that is, apart from the propaganda on the television, but it's passed down for the generations, and then they lose it. I mean, if you see what your granny ate, it was like, we cooked in lard, we ate this, we ate that. Okay, they ate some grains and this and that. They might have lived to 100 rather than 85 if they didn't eat the grains, but they didn't have the chronic disease we have now, with the seed oils, with the processed food, with the artificial light, with the Wi-Fi and all of that sort of thing. That's just hammering our mitochondria day in, day out. And in fight or flight all the time, because now the economy's down, we're all frightened. You know, we're frightened of fake pandemics and viruses that don't exist. Oh, wash my mouth out. and you know, so we're kept in this perpetual state of fear. And this has a knock-on effect to everything, to our mitochondrial health, to the fact that we can't deplete deuterium, to the fact, you know, if you look at it through the lenses that I've sort of sketched out while we're talking, it becomes very clear what health is. But then people just get behind it. Oh, I could never do that. I could never eat meat. I could never, you know, all this sort of brainwashing that we've been given that prevents us from healing ourselves.
I mean, it is actually when we, again, I suppose, we do have, well, maybe not everybody. I have a tendency to overcomplicate things myself. But bottom line is clean water, right nutrients in. So there you go, beef and lamb. Toxins and poisons out. That's got to be, I mean, all medication is poison. I mean, how can you even think that to treat something with a poison, I mean, the whole thing is so backwards. So I do feel that it's the accumulation, like you say, with the vegetables, the oxalates, all these toxins, poisons, and then stress being the final nail in the coffin. So, Phil, thank you so much for your time. I'm going to go and put the beef joint that I got this morning in the slow cooker, and I'm going to enjoy that, and maybe I won't have the cauliflower then.
Beautiful. Well, tell me how you get on. Tell me how you get on.
Yeah, I think they're not going to have some slight chat. Again, you know, I'm not doing it for any specific ailment or anything, but, you know.
You know, one thing before we go on that, when I first started my carnivore group, I only started it for like 5 or 6 friends, and they said, "Can you start? I understand you've done carnivore like 3-4 years ago, or whatever. Can you help us out with that?" And then suddenly it's grown to 16,000. I don't know how that happened, but when I first did it, and the first people were joining and trying this 30-day challenge of carnivore, I was not surprised when the people were reversing stuff. What I was surprised about was the amount of posts I was getting from their healthy partners who did it with them, who were just to support them. And they were going, well, I just did this to support my wife or my husband or my boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever. And I can't believe what's happened. Now the last bit of belly fat's gone. I don't have that little belly anymore. I'm sleeping better. You know, I don't have reflux. I thought I was healthy, but I realized I wasn't. There's all these little niggly things. And I was getting these long posts by these guys and these girls, you know, and it was fantastic. Brilliant. So, yeah, you can always make optimal, you know, having no symptoms is different from being optimal.
There you go. And that's the key. You've just said it right there. Awesome. So thank you so much for your time again, Phil. I'm definitely going to have you on again. And to the rest of the listeners, I will be back next week with a coffee with Karen. Bye for now.
Welcome to the Coffee with Karen podcast, a weekly chat show discussing everything from holistic health to current affairs from a mental, physical, and spiritual perspective. Get your weekly cup of positivity with a sprinkling of woo-woo.